Hi, welcome to another episode of Naburva LinkedIn series. Hi, Shahrukh, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you, Jawad, for inviting me once again for this session. I hope that last one was a pretty productive one,
Yeah,
and it's good to be here once again.
yeah, exactly. Job analysis was pretty, I would say that was a thing that was not discussed out there more often. So
Yeah.
our audience loved it really much, and we can see it from the likes we're getting on that video.
Oh,
So
yeah.
thank you so much for spending time for us again. And as discussed, so what's that we are discussing today? Yeah.
Well, so as like the job analysis, there is one more area which is kind of neglected many times in our organizations. I won't call it just here in our geographical area, but it's been kind of time when people are not even understanding that why this area is so important. The area talking about is training need analysis. Uh, so it's just a function of HR, which is training and development. We always talk about that, but when it comes to the analysis, like analyzing the situation, then why do we even need a training for a certain person or a whole department? What are the needs of the organization? What is the organizational strategy? What are the goals they are unable to meet? And how this person is actually feeling about it. So these all factors are very important. Otherwise, your training is it's just a check mark on your performer that you have done something, but you haven't actually received anything in return. Maybe in terms of fiscal benefits, in terms of any other monetary or added value to the organization, and nothing. I mean, you have just wasted your time. So that is the area I'm going to talk about. Um, if you have any question regarding that, you can ask those in between. But I'll start on my own from the very basic that
Sure.
what this whole topic is all about. So. Um,
Yeah,
to
please.
our audience, I really wanna tell them that what training need analysis to me is, and what is the holistic stance of this whole area is, right? Let's start from the very basic. As the name suggests, that it's an analysis. Usually, when it comes to analyzing anything, there are both situations, qualitative and quantitative. Now, as this area is regarding people, obviously it is very, very difficult to analyze anything in terms of numbers. So the first thing you're gonna have is the qualitative attributes of these trainings. What are you gonna get, right? Then you are going to understand that why this training is actually needed. To be very honest, Jawad, I have seen in my whole career that most of the times when people think, like when the organizational heads, the C-suite, they think that in this specific problem you need a training. Most of the times it's not training you need. Just because you didn't spend ample amount of time to analyze the situation, that's why you couldn't get to the core pain point. Obviously, the suggested solution won't fulfill the requirements. It won't solve your issues, right? So
Yeah.
to understand training need analysis, all you need to understand is five different aspects. Number one, organizational scope. Number two, organizational analysis. Number three, requirement analysis. What are the requirements of that training is? Four, again, we are coming back to our previous topic, job analysis. And number five is person analysis. Now, if you go through all five areas, you'll understand that there are four things which are required by the organization, and there's only one thing which is required by the human resource. Again, this is the whole concept which is taken under consideration in such a way that it is just a human problem. So we just gotta resolve it through training,
Yeah,
right?
I
So
think they consider training it like to solve anything, to solve any human behavior related issue. They call it a training issue, and they think only just by showing them a slide or just by showing them a PPT, they are going to maybe change. It's going to change everything without any pre-thinking. Yeah.
So it's a very, very common approach in our area that we used to talk about the AD model or the SAM model. Both of the models suggest that the first part of anything is analyzing the situation. I'll give you a very fine example of that. Uh, Last time when I talked to one of the C-level personnel of an organization, he was like that. This is the core reason. That's why we are failing in our project. Like, as per him, it was just training that the people were not enough trained. But for me, that was a whole analysis which was already in my mind, which I wanted to run in the organization to understand if it's just people or if it is the process, if it is the culture, if it is the environment, if it is the manifesto of that organization, right? Because once you are running towards the people just because it started, it always starts the blame game. You are just blaming the people if you're not analyzing it properly. So what I did was I asked him that if you give me some time, let me run few of the analysis. And honestly, Jawad, when I ran that, it was 80% of the process problem, not the people problem, right?
Yeah.
We did that in a very fine way that we run the lean methodology, we changed the process, like actually re-engineered it, and everything was smooth.
Okay.
So every time when you are not analyzing, it doesn't mean that it's just a training need. Just because your people are not performing well, you just need to train them, train them, train them. It's not a training. It's like you are just reading out slides in front of them.
Yes. Absolutely. Like I can relate to it since even business process reengineering, when we went through that, the initial stage of that process reengineering comes from the analysis, like what are we expecting from them? If
Exactly.
I believe some of the management roles, if they cannot like if they cannot have the right data, if they cannot see the right data, they eventually blame it to on the person that's doing that job, that it's your responsibility and you're not doing it. And the solution, the go-to solution they have for it is like just get him trained. So yeah, I really like, and I think I can relate to it what you're referring to. So once we get that analysis of the situation, once we analyze like it's a person problem or it's a process problem, or maybe it needs to change the whole function. Maybe some structural changes are required there. So what's the next step that we went on, like we need to move on to?
So since we are talking about the analysis part, so there are some of the analysis which I'm going to talk about, which you can learn and you can implement in your organizations to understand that what the real problem is. For example, some of the analysis I used to run is deep dive analysis, right? Your task or work analysis, like work breakdown structures. These are the analysis which you can study. Then your process documentation. You have different names for this. You can call it SWO, you can call it CFM, anything, whatever you call it. But at the end of the day, it's the process document. There might be a problem with your process document as well. There might be a problem with your systematic interventions as well. Sometimes you deploy technical or systematic infrastructure to ease things up, but it's a hassle for you sometimes, but you are not understanding it. You think that just because you have involved IT, so everything is going to be smooth, but sometimes it fails, right? So you need to be very clear about that as well. Training is something when your person is talking to you in such a way, a resource. He comes to me, he's gonna tell me that Shahrukh, I'm not understanding a bit of this system. I need a training of that. I need a learning for that. That is when I need to give him the instructional guide, not just reading out slides. I mean, even through that manual, I'm training him, right? So if I'm training him in a certain ways, obviously I need to analyze it in a certain ways, right? I
Yeah.
talked about work breakdown structure. You study that. Maybe there is a gap in that. You talk about I talked about the process documentation. I didn't talk about the process interventions. You can run a deep dive analysis, right? You can run a CTQ, CTP analysis, right? It's critical to quality, critical to product. Like these are the analysis which you run to understand that what was the critical implications needed to do a certain task. There might be some it happened to me. It's a very funny story. Let me tell you that it happened to me that we were just running training need analysis for an organization, and it came to know that the people were doing two extra part in the process which were not actually needed. Can you believe it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Where
I
did they
mean,
come from?
if you are being told to press A, S, D, F, G in the keyboard of your, uh, but you are running A, S, D, F, G and H, J on your own. Obviously, you are making a lot of effort pressing H and J again and again when it's not even needed,
Yeah.
right? That's why analysis is important. So as I talked about, that I converted into 5 parts. People part is just 20%. Your 80% part is through the organization in any way possible.
Yeah. Okay. So once we have performed this analysis, we have the data like this. These are the problems and these are the issues that we have with the with our process, maybe with our let's say human resource, or maybe for our, I would say, the process documentation. That the process documentation is not clearly built. It's not according to the process CTQs, the variables, the outputs we are expecting from the process. So let's say we analyzed and we came to know it's on the process end. It's something that the process needs to change. So what's the first step from that perspective for an organization? Yeah.
All right. So, in the process side, what you need to do is you need to run whole BPR, the business process reengineering, right? You need to understand, you break down the process into smaller bits. You understand that which bit is important and how you need to understand the importance, and you need to be able to deliver that importance to the employee as well. So that is a part of training. The other part is you are improving the process. This part you are training. Like bit by bit, you are doing both, changing the process or revamping the process, and also you are collecting the bits for the training, right? So you have divided it into small parts. In every small part, okay, let's take an example. For instance, I'm doing recruitment. The process says the first step, I gotta collect resumes. The second step, I gotta have first interview, the HR part, the personality interview. Third, um, uh, technical interview maybe. Fourth, final offer. Fifth, onboarding, right? I cut it off into smaller parts. One of the person who came to your organization is not the right fit. Do you think that there is only the problem with the HR personnel who actually didn't recruit him well? No, there
No.
might be some of the problems with the process. So you took the first bit, that what was the problem in collecting the resumes? Who were the evaluators of those resumes, right? Obviously, the guy sent the resume to second or third party as well in the whole scenario, right? Then let's get to the second level. Okay, wherever there was a problem with the person, he couldn't read the whole resume, he need a training on resume analysis topic. But if there were like 3 jury members and they didn't get to that level where they could actually understand what the requirements of the organization are and what they are hiring, then this is the process problem. You can't just get it into the training, right? So in every part, you're going to run the both analysis. Where is the process implications and where are the process gaps and where are the training needs, right? And then you can get into that level. So that's how you change the whole process as well as get the training needs.
Okay. I think that's a very relevant, and it's a like actual example that a lot of HR professionals are facing out there. So Yeah, I hope they can relate to it. Okay, let's narrow down to the training part of it. Let's say it's a problem with the man, like you have mentioned,
Yeah,
the person who is filtering those CVs, screening those CVs for the initial interview for HR. So,
right.
what's the steps with the training that we need to take now in terms of training it? Yeah, we have solved the method, we have documented it, we have prepared and identified the gaps in that method, and we have solved it. We have updated that SOP document, and we have provided with him or her with the new guidelines. So, but what's the training part of it? Yeah.
All right. So the next part is always, and as I've mentioned, that I'm talking about the whole AD model, right? So AD model is analysis, design, development, then your evaluation, right? So in the AD model, the next step is design. All right. So what is the design? You collected those bits. Now you are going to make a storyboard. In every bit, what would be your point of knowledge? What would be your activity? What would be your icebreaker? What would be your threat that is going to make it relevant? The threat could be anything, a case study, a research paper, anything, right? So any thread, okay? So these are the four things. So in every bit which you have collected from the previous part, you're going to collect this data. Then you're going to shape it in the form of storyboard. What comes first? How are you going to make the next step relevant to the first one? How are you going to conclude in the third phase the first and second one? Then move to the next topic in the process cycle where we identify the second bit, the second problem, the second gap, right? That's how you are going to storyboard the whole thing. Now, once your storyboard is ready, now you're going to develop the whole instruction. That's why it's called instructional design, right? How you're going to develop it? It means in every storyboard topic, it's like a table of contents, right? Your storyboard is like a table of contents. So you're going to start from the very basic. The first point, what is the knowledge I need to give him? The definition of the point, the activity, the exercise, which is going to support your definition of that point, how you are going to make it relevant to the job part, the job he's actually doing, he or she, whatever it is. All right. So that is the third part. After that, once your instruction is designed, you or like if it's you who is going to be a trainer, you need to rehearse the whole thing right in front of yourself, that how you're going to deliver it, because it should be perfect.
Yeah.
Training is a very critical thing, Jawad.
Yeah,
Honestly, if
exactly.
you ask
Exactly.
me, wherever you divert it even a tiny bit, you have changed the whole mindset of the person, right? Once that is changed, it's more of a, what I would call it, it's a hypnosis, right? You are hypnotizing somebody to some other level.
Yeah.
That is the impact of training. If you do it wrong, it means you have changed the whole mindset of the person for the whole professional career, and you have ruined his life. So I always tell the trainers, I always tell the training professionals to be very careful about their knowledge, about their information which they have collected even from the Google, right? It's our very first research platform, right?
Yeah.
Because we always go to Google, we search about stuff. So I tell